There's a difference between a compass and a GPS. One tells you which way is north, the other tells you exactly where to turn, and panics when you miss the exit. I spent most of my 20s looking for a GPS for my life. I wanted turn-by-turn directions. I wanted to know I was on the right route. And every time something didn't go according to plan, a job that didn't work out, a relationship that ended, a project that flopped, the voice in my head would say the same thing. You made the wrong turn. Go back. Recalculate. Here's what I finally understood. That voice wasn't giving me directions. That voice was afraid. And afraid is not the same thing as lost. Welcome back to Uplifted Living. I'm Nick Gilbert. This is Season 2, Episode 9. If you're new to the show, here's what we're doing this season. Each episode is built around a single metaphor. One idea explored deeply. No surface level advice, no 5-step formulas, just one concept turned over until we find something useful. Last week we talked about the enough threshold. Knowing when you've done enough and when more isn't better, it's just more. Today, I want to talk about what happens after you reach the threshold. Once the noise is quieter, once you trust yourself, once you know what enough feels like, how do you actually make decisions? Not from panic, not from scarcity, from clarity. That's what the compass is about. Here's the thing about a compass. It doesn't tell you where to go. It doesn't give you turn-by-turn directions. It doesn't recalculate when you've hit a detour. A compass just points north. That's it. One job, one direction. Everything else, the route you take, how fast you move, whether you go around a mountain or through it, that's up to you. Most of us, when we're facing a big decision, we want a GPS. We want someone or something to tell us exactly what to do. Take this job. Don't take this job. End this relationship. Start this project. Move to this city. We want the certainty of a glowing blue line on a screen. But here's the problem. GPS requires a pre-programmed destination. Someone had to decide where you're going before the directions work. And if you don't know where you're going yet, if you're in a season of figuring it out, GPS is useless. Worse than useless. It panics. It recalculates endlessly. It tells you to make a U-turn every time you try something new. A compass doesn't do any of that. A compass just says, this way is north. You figure out the rest. Here's why this matters. The quality of your decisions has almost nothing to do with how much information you have. It has everything to do with which voice is making the call. I made the worst decision of my life about 6 years ago. Not the one with the biggest consequences, just the one that cost me the most internally. I was trying to decide whether to leave a job that was making me miserable. And I did what I always did. I made a list. Pros on one side, cons on the other side. I asked everyone I trusted what they thought. I Googled how to know when to quit your job. I treated the decision like a math problem. Like, if I just collected enough data, the right answer would reveal itself. And after weeks of this, I made my choice. I stayed. And it was the wrong call. Not because staying was objectively wrong, but because the decision was made entirely from fear. Fear of disappointing people, fear of financial instability, fear of being seen as a quitter. I wasn't deciding from clarity. I was deciding from a voice that sounded like strategy, but was actually just panic in a blazer. Here's what I know now that I didn't know then. Fear is an excellent mimic. It sounds like being careful. It sounds like being responsible. It sounds like thinking things through. But fear doesn't point north. Fear points towards safety. And safety is not the same thing as direction. Here's what's interesting, though. Fear isn't lying to you. It's just really bad at navigation. So the first anchor is this. Before you try to figure out which way to go, figure out who's driving. When you feel the urge to make a big decision, or when you're stuck between options and can't seem to move, pause. Don't open another pro-con list. Don't text another friend for their opinion. Just stop and ask yourself one question. Am I trying to move toward something or away from something? Toward is clarity. Away is fear. And they feel completely different. Towards feels like an expansion, like possibility, like leaning in. Away feels like contraction, like relief, like getting out of something uncomfortable as fast as possible. Neither one is wrong, by the way. Sometimes the right move is to get away from something that's hurting you, but you should know which one you're doing. Because if you're making an away from decision while telling yourself it's a toward decision, you're going to end up somewhere you didn't actually choose. You're going to end up wherever fear wanted you to go. And here's what's wild. You can feel the difference in your body. Toward decisions, even scary ones, have a kind of aliveness to them. Your heart rate might go up, but it's excitement, not dread. Away decisions have a tightness, a clenching, a sense of just wanting the discomfort to stop. Neither sensation tells you what to do, but they do tell you who's holding the wheel. Fear points toward safety. Your compass points toward north. Same landscape, completely different destination. So the second anchor is this. Stop asking your compass to do what a GPS does. Your compass, your internal sense of what matters, what you value, and what you're actually trying to build, it only points in one direction. It doesn't tell you which job to take. It doesn't tell you whether to stay or to go. It doesn't tell you if this is the right time. It just tells you this is the way north. Here's what I mean. If you value autonomy, if the thing that makes you feel most alive is making your own decisions and owning your own time, then north looks like more autonomy, not less. If you value connection, if the thing that makes you feel most alive is deep relationships and meaningful collaboration, then north looks like more connection, not less. Your compass doesn't give you the address. It gives you the direction, and here's where most people get stuck. They want their values to make the decision for them. They want, I value autonomy to mean, obviously I should quit my job and freelance. But that's not how it works. The compass says, head toward more autonomy. Well, how do you do that? Whether it's quitting or negotiating different terms or starting a side project or changing roles within the same company, that's navigation. That's the part you figure out as you go. The compass just keeps you pointed in the right direction while you do it. And this is the thing. When you're lost, you don't need to know exactly where you are. You just need to know which way is north. The rest you can figure out along the way. Is this. You don't need to see the whole path. Just the next 50 feet. This is where the compass metaphor gets really practical. Because here's what happens. You've paused. You've noticed the difference between toward and away. You've identified which way your compass points. And now you're standing there, looking at the horizon, trying to figure out the entire route. What's the 5-year plan? What if I get halfway there and I realize I was wrong? What if there's a better path and I'm not seeing it? What if I make the wrong choice and I can't recover? That's the GPS talking. That's the part of you that wants turn-by-turn directions for the next decade. And here's what's true. And this connects back to what we talked about in the trust battery episode. You don't need to trust that you'll make the right call 5 years from now. You just need to trust that you'll figure it out the next 50 feet. Because that's all you can ever see anyway. The path reveals itself as you walk it. The compass gives you the direction. You give yourself the steps. One at a time. Tiny receipts, stacked. The GPS wants the whole route. The compass just wants to know if you're heading north. One of those is actually useful. The other panics every time life throws up a detour. That's how you start making decisions from clarity instead of fear. Not by gathering more information, not by eliminating uncertainty, by knowing which voice is navigating and giving it the right tool. Those are the 3 anchors. Pause before you navigate. Your compass only does one thing. The next 50 feet. Keep them. But before we close, let me say this. If you're at a crossroads and you've been stuck there for weeks, maybe months, maybe longer, I want you to hear this. You are not stuck because you don't have enough information. You are not stuck because the decision is impossibly complex. You are stuck because you've been asking the GPS for directions when what you actually need is a compass. You've been waiting for certainty, for a sign, for someone to tell you what to do. And in the absence of that certainty, you've done nothing. You've stayed in the job, stayed in the relationship, stayed in the city. Not because you chose to, but because you couldn't prove that leaving was the right call. Here's what I want you to try. Forget about proving anything. Just ask yourself, which direction is north? Toward more of what? More autonomy? More connection? More creativity? More peace? You don't need to know the route. You don't need to see the destination. You just need to take the next small step in that direction. One step. That's it. The path will show up. It always does. Thank you for being here this week. If today's episode helped you look at a decision you've been stuck on, especially if you realized you've been asking the wrong tool for directions, share it with someone who's at their own crossroads. Follow the show wherever you listen. And take care of yourself, actually.